If you found a letter from the future addressed to you, would you believe it or dismiss it? A sallow late afternoon light trickled weakly through the bookstore's front windows, dust particles billowing lazily in the stale air. Maya stood behind the well-worn counter, the faint scent of aged paper and leather binding blending into the quiet hum of half-hearted murmurs from a sparse crowd. Her fingers trembled slightly as they toyed with the strap of her canvas bag, the weight of precedent expectations dragging her down. The pale green walls, lined with mahogany shelves groaning under the weight of countless stories, seemed to close in around her in a silent, suffocating embrace. Nearby, an ancient fan stirred the air weakly, its creaking rhythm matching the faint pulse of her anxiety. She scanned the faces in the room, few, distracted, disinterested, no one quite present, none with eyes that held the gleam of excitement or delight she so desperately craved. Maya's breath hitched as a whispered conversation spilled from the corner, a dismissive, cutting tone threaded through words of thinly veiled condescension. Self-published, huh? Must be nice to dream so big when so few believe. The woman's laugh, laced with backing cynicism, dripped poison into Maya's chest. Her heart clenched, color draining from her cheeks. She caught the sidelong glances, half pity, half disdain that carved invisible scars across her confidence. A sudden clatter erupted as a nervous hand knocked loose a stack of tattered postcards on a nearby table, the sharp sound slicing through the room like a whip cracked in the still air. Startled patrons cast wary eyes toward the sound, but no one moved to help or engage. Maya wished the ground would open beneath her feet. Her voice, barely above a whisper, faltered as she tried to offer a smile, a thanks, anything luminous to dispel the growing shadow within. Two young women whispered behind their bookshelves, their laughter echoing faintly, a fragile bubble of life, untouchable, mocking. Maya's eyes caught a stray glint, the tarnished surface of a pocket watch dangling from her neck, swaying gently as her chest rose and fell with shaky breath. The wooden floor beneath Maya creaked a knowing lament as she stepped away, the weight of invisible chains binding her to a moment she wished desperately to escape. Outside, the sun dipped lower, the sky staining apricot, a palette of warm hues fighting against the cold creeping inside. Her gaze flickered toward the worn book cover beneath the counter, featured in the window light the story she'd poured her soul into, gathering dust as if silenced by the indifferent world. Her fingers closed around the spine tightly, the skin on her knuckles pale against the darkened leather. A single word escaped her lips, a fragile prayer lost amid the rustle of pages and waning daylight. Why? The camera lingered as the bookstore's evening shadows lengthened, wrapping Maya in a cocoon of whispered doubts and distant hopes, the fragile threshold between surrender and the spark of untold possibility. The scene paused on the worn letter pressed inside the book, its sealed envelope catching the last light, the sealed date glowing faintly, a silent herald of mysteries yet to unfold. The street outside Maya's small apartment was cloaked in the silver mist of early evening, droplets hanging on the edges of bare branches like fragile promises. Inside, the muted glow of a single lamp flickered against the worn walls, painting the room in heavy shadows and soft amber warmth that did little to chase the chill settling in her chest. She sank onto the threadbare couch, legs curled beneath her, a quiet tension folding around her like the oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder. The weight of the dismissive comment she'd overheard at the bookstore gnawed relentlessly, whispering doubts that chipped away her resolve like an unseen erosion. Her breath faltered as she stared at the unopened mug on the stained coffee table, the faint scent of chamomile, a distant memory she could no longer reach. In the silence that thickened like fog, Maya's mind spiraled, wavering between the bright flickers of hope and the oppressive shadows of cynicism. She crossed her arms, squeezing herself as if to hold the fragments of her confidence together. A wave of anger washed over her, swift and quiet, a pulse of defiance beneath the growing storm of doubt. A soft knock at the door broke the fragile quiet. Her best friend, Zoe, stood framed in the doorway, her gaze warm yet etched with concern. Maya's eyes met hers, and for a brief second, the loneliness that had settled deep inside seemed to ebb, replaced by the gentle buoy of shared understanding. "Hey, you okay?" Zoe's voice was soft, teasing away layers of hurt with quiet strength. Maya's lips twitched, a shadow of a smile breaking through the gloom. "I don't know anymore. It's like the world's moving past me." Zoe stepped inside, closing the door silently, her eyes steady. "Maybe you need a break, step away from the writing, the bookstore, the noise. Sometimes the best stories come when you stop chasing them." Maya's gaze fell to the chipped edges of the coffee table, her fingers tapping a rhythmic uncertainty. The idea, though foreign, planted a seed not of surrender, but of a fragile possibility. Could stepping back be the shift she needed? Later, alone again, she wandered toward the small attic space nestled beneath the eaves, the inherited sanctuary filled with relics of forgotten times. Dust motes swirled with every cautious step, casting a veil of nostalgia and mystery. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and long-suppressed secrets. Her fingers brushed against a faded leather-bound chest, the tarnished pocket watch from the mantel above resting atop it, gleaming faintly in the shaft of sunlight filtering through the grimy window. The watch's steady, relentless ticking was a metronome of time's unforgiving march, yet here it was still, defiant, holding something precious against the decay. Maya's breath caught. Beneath the watch, a slender envelope peeked from between yellowed pages of a cracked ledger, a letter, sealed and dated a year ahead. The script was unfamiliar, yet intensely personal, as if reaching across time itself. The camera lingered on her face, a mixture of curiosity, fear, and tentative hope swirling beneath a furrowed brow. Somewhere beneath the weight of dismissal and doubt, a spark had ignited a silent promise that perhaps the past and the future held keys to her still unwritten story. And in the quiet attic, bathed in the warm golden light and cloaked in long shadows, she unfolded the letter, stepping unknowingly toward the echoes of her own destiny. The attic was a cavern of memories, dim and thick with dust, where shafts of late afternoon light struggled through grimy panes to fall in golden, hesitant beams. Maya moved slowly, her fingers brushing over ancient trunks and stacks of faded photographs, each relic pulsing faintly with untold stories. The air smelled of old wood, mothballs, and the faint, ghostly trace of burnt ashes from a fire long extinguished. A tarnished pocket watch lay half-buried beneath a scattering of brittle papers, its face dull and hands frozen in relentless stillness, symbolizing the merciless march of time. Her breath caught as she shifted a tattered quilt and uncovered a simple, sealed envelope, the heavy parchment of its paper rough beneath her fingertips. The date embossed on the front glowed faintly in the dusty air, a future marking that contradicted everything she thought possible. The script was elegant, foreign, yet imbued with an intimacy that made her heart stutter, addressed to her, from a name unfamiliar, a whisper from beyond the present. Maya's eyes fluttered over the worn handwriting, a blend of trepidation and magnetic pull rooting her to the spot. The attic shrank into shadow. The golden light dimmed and cooled as the weight of the letter pressed on the fragile edge of belief and disbelief. She was caught between worlds, past wrapped in faded portraits lining the walls, present heavy with uncertainty, and a future holding secrets not yet spoken. Her mind raced, the cynicism that had smothered her ambition momentarily melting away. The letters she overheard at the bookstore, the dismissals, the sneers echoed faintly but no longer cemented her doubt. Instead, a flicker of wonder began to ignite within, a seed of hope that reached past the crushing weight of reality. The tarnished pocket watch seemed to throb in rhythm with the beating of her heart, a call to transcend the limits imposed by time and modern scorn. The ashes from the fireplace, dull gray and forgotten, symbolized truth left for dead but somehow enduring beneath the surface. Maya swallowed hard and gently broke the seal. The paper crackled softly, a sibilant promise of revelation. She unfolded the letter with trembling hands, eyes scanning lines that spoke in cryptic tones of events to come, of choices to be made, and of love unbound by mere chronology. Her fingers trembled as the weight of the unknown settled deep in her bones, but her gaze held steady. The dismissive world outside the attic's narrow window began to fall away, replaced by an expanding universe where time wove strange patterns and truths could not be easily dismissed. Maya stood, the letter clasped close as if it had become a talisman, a guidepost through the fog of doubt that had clouded her path. Her breath evened, her eyes lifted toward the dimming light with cautious purpose. Somewhere in the silence, the old clock ticked faintly, its once discordant beat now a steady pulse, marking the moment she crossed a threshold. The attic seemed to breathe with her, a living relic of forgotten past and yet unfolding future. She stepped deeper into its embrace, ready to follow the echoes of truth wherever they might lead. The camera held on the letter's open script, the delicate hand revealing only fragments, a future event unknown, a voice calling through time, the promise of a path yet to be walked. And in that lingering solitude, Maya's story pivoted from dismissal to discovery, from fear to the first flicker of faith. The attic leaned into the encroaching evening like a fading memory, the amber light from the street lamps seeping through the cracked window, casting restless shadows on the cluttered floor strewn with relics of bygone eras. Maya sat cross-legged amidst forgotten trunks and yellowed photographs, the mysterious letter resting on her lap as if burdened with the weight of unspoken time. Her fingers traced the elegant yet enigmatic script. Every word flickered against the dim light like a secret whispered across centuries. Outside, autumn wind rustled the brittle leaves, carrying a melancholic tune that murmured through the chinks of the old house. The relentless patter of the rain against the slate roof echoed a rhythm that echoed her quickening heartbeat, every drop striking a chord of hope and dread. She unfolded the letter again, eyes scanning the delicate ink that spoke vividly of events yet to come, a future she never dared imagine or admit to herself. A surge of adrenaline ignited cautiously within her, mingling with an undercurrent of fear, making her breath catch and her palms sweat. The tarnished pocket watch she'd found resting amid ashes from an ancient fireplace on the attic mantel ticked softly, though out of sync with the world beyond these walls, its slow, uneven march a solemn reminder of time's relentless passage and her own fleeting grasp of it. Maya lifted it, letting the faint gleam catch the fading light, a symbol of moments lost and found. With tentative determination, she slipped the letter back into its envelope and secured it in the pocket of her oversized sweater. Her eyes darted to the dusty photo album nearby, fingers aching to discover a thread that might weave her scattered thoughts into something tangibly real. A sudden creak from the attic stairs stirred her attention. The house seemed alive with memories, its silence heavy with whispers waiting to be heard. Heart pounding, she rose to peek through the thin veil of spiderwebs adorning the rafters and the dangling belt of faded ribbons tied years ago to forgotten dreams. Her mind raced with questions, doubt battling the flicker of optimism. Could this letter truly rewrite her understanding of time, her past, her future? Or was it a cruel mirage, fed by her desperation to find meaning amidst the dismissals and failures she had endured? Her voice, barely above a whisper, broke the silence. What if it's all true? What if I'm meant to follow this path? The room seemed to hold its breath as the shadows danced in impulsive flickers, the muted hues of nostalgia blending with the cold, creeping night beyond the attic window. A faint rustling stirred in the background, the whisper of secrets pressing close, as if the very walls remembered the stories Maya was only beginning to discover. The camera lingered on her facettense, hopeful, vulnerable as the letter's mystery settled heavy, igniting a journey full of promise and peril. Her expression flickered with the uncertain courage of a soul poised on the cusp of transformation. And with the distant thunder rolling softly overhead, the story paused, poised on the frail edge where belief nudges the impossible, and the past's ghost steps beckon forward. The soft glow of the desk lamp barely penetrated the shadows that clung stubbornly to the attic's corners. Maya sat hunched over old family records, their brittle pages spread like fragile wings before her, illuminated in warm sepia tones that contrasted coldly with the chill settling in her bones. The air was thick, heavy with silence and the scent of aged paper mixed with faint embers from the fireplace below, remnants of forgotten stories and truths buried beneath time. Her fingers trembled slightly as she traced names and dates, searching for a thread to weave together the fragmented clues the letter had ignited within her mind. Each contradictory note added weight, a gnawing doubt that tugged mercilessly at the edges of her sanity. How could family history be both so tangible and elusive? Why did the records refuse to align, twisting facts into shapes she could not grasp? The attic seemed to breathe around her, its cluttered relics casting elongated shadows that flickered with each gust passing through the cracked window. The tarnished pocket watch lay beside her, its hands frozen in defiance of time's relentless march, symbolizing the very paradox haunting her quest. She touched it tenderly, feeling its cold metal stark against the heat rising within her. A sudden creak startled hearth floorboards below groaned under a weight she hadn't anticipated. Maya's breath caught as the door to the attic whispered open and her best friend, Claire, stepped inside, her face etched with concern but laced with skepticism. "You're chasing ghosts, Maya," Claire said quietly, her eyes searching Maya's flushed features. "This obsession, it's not healthy. Maybe it's time to let it go, before it consumes you." Pain flashed across Maya's face, but her gaze held a fierce steadiness. "You don't understand. This letter, our history, it's more than stories or myths. It's a key. If I stop now, I lose everything." Claire sighed, stepping closer but maintaining a measured distance. "I'm scared for you. You're spiraling, and it's pushing everyone away." Maya's voice faltered for a fleeting moment, cracks in her resolve peeking through. "I have to know. Even if it's terrifying." The tension thickened, the chilly attic air snapping taut like a drawn bow. Claire hesitated, then reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from Maya's face, a gesture heavy with unspoken care and growing distance. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered before retreating down the stairs, leaving Maya alone with the haunting stillness. The door's soft closing echoed a finality that reverberated through Maya's chest. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back, steeling herself against the aching solitude. Turning back to the scattered documents, Maya sifted painstakingly, piecing together inconsistencies with a growing determination that bordered on desperation. Each discovery both illuminated and obscured, the fragments of truth shimmering just beyond reach. Suddenly, a photograph slipped from between brittle pages, a sepia-tone portrait of a woman remarkably similar to Maya, yet dressed in fashions from nearly a century ago. Her eyes met Maya's across time, deep and haunting, as if beckoning to secrets yet unrevealed. Maya's breath caught. The attic seemed to draw closer, the shadows deepening, whispering old tales tangled with promises and warnings. With trembling hands, she unfolded the aged letter once more, noting a new marking she hadn't seen before, a seal broken and a line of script that pulsed faintly beneath her fingertips. The camera held on Maya's face, etched with a mixture of fear, awe, and a fragile hope. The boundaries between past and present, truth and myth, seemed to ripple and fold. And as a sudden draft stirred the ashes in the fireplace beneath, flinging them upward in a silent, gray cascade, Maya realized the journey had only just begun. The letter's mysteries beckoning her deeper into the unknown. The attic breathed a heavy silence, thick with the dust of forgotten days and the shadows of untold secrets. Maya stood motionless, the weight of what she'd uncovered pressing down upon her like the heavy wooden beams overhead. The pale light of an autumn afternoon filtered weakly through the grimy attic window, casting long, hesitant beams across the scattered relics of her family's past. In her hand, the tarnished pocket watch trembled, a relic of time's relentless, unyielding march. Its face, dulled with age, mirrored the worn path upon which she now tread, a journey through obscured memories and fragile truths. The relentless ticking, out of sync with the world beyond the walls, filled the air with an urgent, dissonant rhythm reminiscent of a heart struggling to beat after years submerged in silence. Before her, an old leather-bound ledger lay open, its pages fragile and yellowed with age. Among the faded ink, Maya had found the most profound revelation, a disturbing connection between her lineage and the events predicted in the letter from the future she'd recently discovered. The names intertwined across generations spoke in cryptic whispers of love, betrayal, and sacrifice, threads woven into a tapestry far deeper and more tragic than she had dared imagine. Each word she read fragmented her understanding of identity, shattering the fragile certainty she had clung to. The ashes from the long-dead fireplace nearby seemed to rise in ghostly tendrils, carrying forgotten truths that now screamed to be heard. Her breath faltered, tears pricking at the corners of her eyes as the enormity of her family's history enveloped her burden of secrets held through decades, now thrust upon her fragile shoulders. Her voice trembled in the dim attic, almost a whisper reverberating through time. I thought I was just writing a story. But this is my story. The air grew colder, the shadows deeper, as if the attic itself exhaled a mournful lament. Maya's gaze fell upon the photograph she had found earlier. A woman, elegant and fierce, bearing an uncanny resemblance to herself, frozen in sepia tones against the backdrop of the 1920s. The woman's eyes held defiance, her smile a secret invitation. In that moment, Maya understood Shay was not simply an observer of her family's past, but an integral part of its legacy, caught in the swirl of time's enigmatic currents. A sudden creak of the attic stairs startled her, pulling her from reverie, while the pocket watch's ticking quickened, echoing the rising storm within her. Maya clutched the letter tighter, its seal broken but the mystery intact, the message within still unread. As the fading light held its final breath outside, Maya faced the daunting truth. Her journey would no longer be one of quiet curiosity but a turbulent passage through fragmented histories and the shadow of disbelief. The camera held on Maya's face, brave yet vulnerable, resolute but unmoored. The attic swallowed her figure in its cool embrace. The whisper of the past pressed close, a whispered promise that the truths she sought might change everything. And beneath the out-of-sync ticking, beneath the cold ashes and faded photographs, Maya stepped deliberately into the unknown, the threshold of revelation awaiting, the lines between past and future unraveling in her hands. The attic was suffused with a cold, unyielding silence, the fading daylight slipping through the cracked windowpane, retreating into shadows that claimed the room like unwelcome memories. Maya stood alone, clutching the letter from the future, its pages trembling faintly in her unsteady hands. The weight of the past and the haunting uncertainty of what lay ahead coiled within her chest, constricting as time itself seemed to unravel around her. Each breath she took seemed thick with the oppressive stillness, the relentless tick of the tarnished pocket watch echoing in her ears, a slow, uneven pulse out of sync with the world. It was a metronome for unraveling, counting down the moments of certainty fading into the unknown. Her eyes, once bright with fragile hope, now shimmered with tears unshed, reflecting the gathering gloom. The ashes from the cold fireplace whispered forgotten truths as if mocking the fragile foundation she tried so desperately to rebuild. Shadows pooled beneath the rafters, creeping and shifting with an almost sentient malevolence. Isolation pressed on her, the room shrinking into claustrophobic despair as the echoes of distant voices, skepticism from friends, and the coldness of disbelief rippled through her mind, fracturing her resolve. The once steadfast presence of her best friend felt impossibly distant, the silent space between them widening like an unbridgeable chasm. A faint draft stirred a brittle scrap of paper on an old chest, its flutter a fragile heartbeat in the suffocating darkness. Maya's lips parted but no words came. The urgency in her gaze betrayed a disintegration of the once clear purpose, replaced now by a swirling void where certainty had dwelled. Minutes stretched endlessly, the ticking watch counting down an invisible torment as daylight faded beyond the attic window, leaving her enveloped by the cold cloak of night. Her voice, when it finally whispered, was barely audible, a breath trembling against the weight of quiet. What am I if not lost? No answer. Only the unrelenting tick, tick, tick marking time that felt both suspended and suffocating. The attic walls seemed to close inward, shadows deepening and swallowing the last flickers of light. Maya sank to the floor, knees drawn against her chest, the letter still clutched close but powerless to anchor her in this spiraling abyss. The world she once knew, her beliefs, her dreams, her love cracked and shattered around her, scatterings of light dissolving into darkness. The camera held on her bowed form, the silence profound, as the relentless ticking of the watch swallowed all else, haunting, intimate requiem for the fracturing soul. And as the night deepened, so too did the slumber of hope, buried beneath the weight of time and forgotten truths, poised on the brink of unraveling completely. The attic was swallowed by a creeping twilight, the scattered relics and clutter dissolving into shadows that seemed to pulse with unspoken sorrow. Maya sat on the cold wooden floor, her back resting against the worn chest that once held her grandmother's keepsakes. The fading light filtered weakly through the grime-coated window, casting languid, ethereal beams that caught in the powdered dust dancing silently in the stagnant air. A sharp draft from the cracked window whispered ghosts of forgotten times across her skin, cold and biting, curling around her shoulders like the tendrils of an old sorrow. The tarnished pocket watch lay beside her within reach, its metal surface dull but still reflecting the faint glow, a haunting symbol of relentless time slipping through her fingers, indifferent to her despair. Her eyes were glassy pools reflecting a storm of loss and fragmentation. The letter from the future, still cradled in her trembling hands, seemed both a blessing and a curse, a mysterious tether to a fate she feared and longed to understand. But today, it felt heavier than ever, its words echoing a silence that swallowed hope. Around her, the ashes from the cold hearth remained gray and crumbling, a mute testament to the incinerated past, its embers lost to the blackness. The fragile, dry air carried the faint smell of smoke and old paper, a scent heavy with the ghosts of truths now abandoned and dreams left to die. Her breath came shallow, a fragile rhythm in the cavernous attic, as the relentless tick of the pocket watch synchronized with the pounding of her heart, each beat a silent plea for meaning in the collapse of certainty. The slow cadence was both comfort and torment, a reminder that time marched on, regardless of the fissures in her spirit. Just beyond the attic sanctuary, the wind moaned through the skeletal branches of the ancient trees lining the narrow lane below. Their gnarled limbs scraped at the windowpane, a chilling symphony of isolation, echoing the relentless scraping in her mind. Maya's voice emerged as a brittle whisper, haunted and tentative. "What is left? When all is lost?" No answer responded but the droning silence, the kind that presses deep into the bones and holds, suffocating yet eerily complete. The attic, the letter, the tarnished watch, and the ashes lay in stillness, suspended in a timeless moment, poised between surrender and the faintest ember of resistance. Her fingers traced the crease of the letter, worn yet unyielding, before slowly loosening their grip. She curled inward, body folding like the closing of a fragile book, retreating from the world. The final flicker of candlelight wavered, then died, leaving Maya submerged in pitch-black silence, where even time itself seemed to hold its breath. The frame held on her fragile silhouette, an island of quiet despair in a sea of dark, as the relentless ticking faded into the void, until only the hollow echo of emptiness remained. The attic was swallowed by lengthening shadows, the amber glow from a lone candle flickering weakly against walls lined with relics of forgotten times. Maya sat crumpled beside the cold hearth, the ashes from the old fireplace scattered around her like the fragments of her unraveling mind. The tarnished pocket watch rested on her lap, its hands frozen, mirroring the stillness settling deep within her. Her breath came in shallow gasps, the years of doubt and disbelief crushing down as she faced the abyss of isolation. Memories teased the fringes of her mind, vague faces, distant voices, a lullaby once sung beneath a moonlit skybit, each remained tantalizingly out of reach, shadows too faint to grasp completely. A quiet rustle stirred the stale air, the soft flutter of paper against oak. Maya's eyes caught the edge of the letter she had unfolded earlier, now folded again with deliberate care, its surface catching the dying light. Her fingers, hesitant yet purposeful, traced the delicate script words that had once haunted her, now offering a fragile thread. The attic breathed around her in heavy, whispered breaths, The silence was a cloak of stillness, yet beneath it pulsed the gentle heartbeat of possibility. Through the grimy window, the first pale blush of dawn began its tentative spread, streaking fragile pinks across a sky heavy with night's remnants. Maya's eyes lifted, meeting the fragile promise outside, the symbol of a beginning reborn from the ashes of despair. Her voice, barely above a breath, murmured to the quiet room, "I remember." That single word echoed tenderly amidst relics and shadows, a whispered affirmation that the past, no matter how obscured or painful, still lived inside her waiting to be reclaimed. Slowly, with trembling hands, she slipped the letter into the pocket of her sweater. The pocket watch, once cold and lifeless, seemed to warm against her skin, a silent companion marking the inexorable passage of hope. A soft breeze stirred, caressing the curled edges of yellowed photographs laid atop the dusty chest. Among them was the spectral image of a woman in 1920s attire, almost a mirror to Maya herself, her gaze unknowingly bridging an endless chasm of time. Maya rose, the weight she carried now tinged with a fragile lightness. Her silhouette, framed by the waning night and the slow crescendo of dawn, held a quiet strength born not of certainty but of choice, the choice to continue the search, to believe beyond logic. And as the sun's first rays edged through the attic window, caressing the faded wallpaper and illuminating the layers of dust that settled like the years she sought to uncover, Maya stood poised between worlds, cradling the thin thread of hope that would guide her forward. The camera held on the aged letter's seal, faintly glowing even as the attic was bathed in morning light, a symbol of a journey far from over, yet buoyed by the first real breath of possibility. The attic was bathed in a trembling dawnlight, chinks of sunlight spilling through the cracked glass, weaving golden threads into the dense shadows that lingered among relics of a Longpai era. Maya sat amidst the clutter of dust-laden trunks and irreplaceable artifacts, her hands gently cradling the letter that had haunted her nights and ignited her mornings. The worn parchment trembled softly as if alive, a fragile talisman woven with her fears and hopes. The tarnished pocket watch beside her, its face mottled with age and neglect, ticked irregularly, a slow, uneven pulse echoing in harmony with the storm raging silently within her. Her eyes, still shadowed with doubt, traced the delicate, faded ink on the letter's surface, each word a whisper of potential unraveling the tangled web of her fractured reality. Outside, the wind whispered through the hollow branches of the old trees, their gnarled limbs caressing the attic window like spectral fingers. The world beyond was awakening softly, birds chirped in tentative melodies, the clouds parted in thin, golden strips of dawn, hinting at rebirth. Yet inside, a convergence of loss and awakening simmered. The past aches with secrets, and the future holds a promise she had yet to fully grasp. With a slow, trembling breath, Maya reached her hand toward the letter and slowly uncovered its seal, a faint rustle of aged paper filling the Silencian ancient song of possibility. Her fingertips lingered on the fragile edges, feeling the cool surface and the faint, almost imperceptible energy pulsing beneath her touch. A quiet determination blossomed beneath the layers of doubt. Her mind, haunted by skepticism and cynicism, now wrestled with a flickering ember of hope, the kind that refuses to be snuffed out by shadows. The old fireplace ashes, long remnants of memories suppressed and truths buried deep, seemed to stir in silent acknowledgement, promising that even in ruin, new life could emerge. Her eyes closed briefly as memories of her grandmother's stories flickered behind her lids, stories of love beyond time, of secrets kept and truths uncovered. Slowly, her trembling hand pressed the paper back, not with despair but with tentative courage, one step on a long journey toward understanding. The attic, once a vault of despair and forgotten histories, now hummed with the quiet, fragile music of hope. The warm glow of dawn shifted to golden hues that bathed her face in gentle reassurance. Her breathing stabilized as the storm within her eased, the first, tentative acknowledgement that change was possible, just beyond her grasp. In the hushed silence, Maya's gaze lingered on the faint glow illuminating her face, her eyes reflecting a fragile spark of resolve, an ember burgeoning into a new dawn. Many shadows still lurk, but, for the first time, her spirit dared to believe that the path forward might be guided by truths long hidden but now seeking the light. The attic's shadows had begun to retreat, pushed back by the first rays of dawn filtering through the cracked pane, stirring a gentle golden hue into the dust-filled air. Maya stood amidst relics of the past, their hands trembling slightly as she held the heirloom, the critical piece her distant relative had entrusted to Hera's small, ornate pendant that shimmered faintly in the soft light. The weight of her journey pressed against her chest, but within her, a new resolve had begun to stir, a fragile yet unyielding seed of purpose. Her eyes, once clouded with doubt and despair, now reflected a flicker of clarity. The memories she had pieced together, the secrets she had uncovered, the truths she had faced, each was a strand woven into a tapestry of coming rebirth. The realization pierced her like a dawn's first light. Her story, her lineage, was more profound and intertwined with the fabric of time than she had dared to believe. The tarnished pocket watch, lying forgotten on the table, caught her gaze, its tarnished surface still and silent, yet resonating with the rhythmic pulse of a new beginning. Maya gently lifted it, feeling its cool weight in her palm, a symbol of the relentless march of time, now a testament to resilience rather than loss. A gentle breeze swept through the attic, stirring the edges of old papers and photographs, the faint scent of ashes from the fireplace lingering like a whisper of truths long repressed. The shadows receded into the corners, replaced by hues of warm amber and soft rose, marking the dawn of understanding and acceptance. Her lips curled into a tentative, genuine smile as she slowly placed the heirloom into a small velvet cloth, then wrapped it carefully, her fingers firm yet tender. She moved towards the attic's opening, the first light spilling across her face, an unspoken vow that she would no longer let the past or the shadows of doubt define her. Outside, the town stirred, early morning life awakening softly, unaware of the quiet revolution taking place within the attic walls. Maya stepped into the dawn, her silhouette merging with the golden glow, an emblem of transformation, hope, and the courage to forge a new path grounded in the truths she now carried. The camera lingered on the heirloom, now secure in her hands, a symbol of the journey, a silent testament to the darkness overcome and the light finally embraced. The attic's shadows disappeared entirely, and with them, the last vestiges of despair replaced by the dawning realization that her story was no longer just a whisper of the past, but the foundation of her future. The attic was transformed, bathed in a radiant dawn that softened the shadows, casting a forgiving glow over relics of a past she once feared to confront. Maya stood motionless, her silhouette framed by the wide-open window, where the first golden rays spilled into the room like a baptism of hope. In her trembling hand rested the heirloom, a delicate, ancient pendant that shimmered faintly in the warm light, its presence a beacon of her rebirth. The air hummed with a quiet power, as if time itself held its breath in reverence of her awakening. The tarnished pocket watch she had once clutched with trembling fingers now sat serenely on the table, its surface gleaming softly, a symbol of the relentless march of time that she had learned to embrace, not fear. Her eyes, once clouded with doubt and despair, now shone with a new clarity and unwavering resolve to forge her own destiny rooted in the truths unearthed and accepted. Her face bore the gentle imprint of a quiet triumph, a testament to the crucible of fears she had endured and emerged victorious from. A gentle breeze sifted through the attic, stirring the dust motes into a dance of light and shadow, echoes of the past, now reconciled with the present. The ashes from the fireplace, a silent symbol of secrets burned and transformed, seemed to relax into their stillness, no longer remnants of neglect but of resilience. Maya's fingers reached out, touching the heirloom tenderly, absorbing its subtle energy, a whisper of eternity, a link to her ancestors' unbroken line and love that transcended time. Her breath was slow, steady, filled with quiet affirmation, as she looked across the room, where relics of her journey laid quietly in harmonious acceptance. With a graceful movement, she lowered herself onto the old wooden chair, her posture upright yet relaxed, a vessel now filled with peace and purpose. Her eyes closed for a moment, breathing in the dawn's gentle promise, as a subtle smile played on her lips, soft and genuine. The attic, once a chamber of shadows and secrets, now shimmered with the warm glow of understanding, the light of her inner rebirth. The camera lingered on her figure, gracefully poised between the remnants of a turbulent past and the luminous horizon of a new beginning. In that stillness bathed in sunlight and silent affirmation, the story held its breath, a poignant portrait of a soul released from the chains of doubt, ready to step boldly into the next chapter, carrying the profound weight of love and truth in her heart. The attic was bathed in a soft, golden hue as the late afternoon sun spilled through the stained glass, casting fractured rainbows onto the cluttered space. Maya sat quietly on the ancient wooden floor, her fingers gently clutching the now fragile, unaged letter that had haunted her days and nights. The room, once filled with chaos and shadows of doubt, now seemed to pulse with a gentle, almost sacred light, a symbol of transformation and serenity. Her eyes, tired but finally clear, traced the delicate inked words that shimmered faintly in the warm glow. This letter, her own voice from a future she could barely comprehend, had become her anchor and unspoken promise of hope, purpose, and understanding. In her hand, the tarnished pocket watch lay still, the relentless march of time halted for a moment of clarity. The ashes from the fireplace, long cold and long forgotten, now glowed softly in her mind, representing the burnt-away fears, the buried truths, the secrets she had thought irretrievable. Yet here in this quiet space, they had risen anew, transforming into a foundation for her rediscovered self. The antique relics of her lineage, photos, heirlooms, faded fabric, didn't seem relics of decay, but symbols of resilience woven through generations. Maya's gaze shifted outward, beyond the attic's window, where the first streaks of dusk painted the sky in hues of lavender and pink, hinting at new beginnings. Her breath, once strained with doubt, now moved in gentle, steady rhythm, a soft exhale of acceptance and peace. A tender smile curled her lips as she gently placed the letter into a simple frame, its delicate surface now a testament to her long journey from shadowed confusion to luminous understanding. With a slow, deliberate motion, she reached out and placed the frame beside the last relic of her grandmother's belongings, symbolically closing the chapter of chaos. Her fingers lingered on the frame, feeling the cool glass and the warmth radiating from her heart, a quiet affirmation that the past, while shrouded in mystery, had led her to this momentum moment where she could finally breathe, forgive, and embrace her roots. The attic, bathed in a serene glow, seemed to breathe with her, its shadows retreating into the corners, no longer symbols of forgotten pain, but of healing and hope. As Maya stood slowly, the camera lingered on her face, illuminated by the last rays of the sun, her expression peaceful, yet vibrant with a newfound purpose. In that stillness, she was no longer lost in the labyrinth of doubt, but was finally anchored, her story woven into the fabric of time, love, and truth that had been waiting patiently for her to trust the journey. The attic's silence stretched like a sacred space, bathed in the golden afterglow of sunset filtering through a small, stained glass window. Maya, seated softly in the corner, gently rested her hand on the frame where the ageless letter now hung, a testament to a journey through darkness and light. Her eyes, once clouded with doubt and fear, shimmered with a profound serenity, reflecting the quiet pride of a soul that had found its peace. She traced the delicate edges of the frame, fingertips soft and reverent, as if touching a fragile relic of her own becoming. Around her, relics of her past, faded photographs, old books, and heirlooms seemed to breathe with a new vitality, their stories intertwined with her own, woven into the fabric of time and love. The space around her exuded warmth, not from the sun's fading rays but from the deep, steady glow blossoming within her, a gentle radiance of acceptance, forgiveness, and understanding. The shadows retreated further into the corners of the attic, leaving behind a peaceful silence that hummed with the music of her reborn spirit. Maya's face softened as she closed her eyes momentarily, breathing in the scent of aged paper and lingering ashes, symbols of truths once buried, now transformed into tokens of resilience. Her heart, once heavy with doubt, beat a quiet, unwavering rhythm and affirmation that the past's shadows could be embraced, not feared. Her hand lingered on the necklace clasped around her neck, an heirloom, a link to ancestors who had endured and loved beyond time. That silent connection grounded her, anchoring her into the present while flowing from the depths of history. Slowly, she rose, her movements graceful, deliberate, embodying the serenity that had blossomed within. The attic door creaked softly as she moved toward it, the golden light spilling from the cracks, illuminating her path with promise. In that moment, she paused, her gaze steady on the last relic, a statue of a woman clutching a heart, symbolizing love's eternal endurance. A faint, tender smile touched her lips, and with gentle resolve, she reached out and closed the last box, sealing her journey with quiet grace. The camera lingered on her figure, bathed in the warm glow, as she stepped into the hallway, a silent, transformative ode to rebirth and acceptance. The attic fell into peaceful silence, the shadows now subdued, holding their secrets in reverence for a story finally redeemed. As she disappeared into the embrace of her home, the scene softened into a wide shot, capturing the attic's harmonious stillness, a sanctuary of peace, a testament to a soul that had finally found its voice amid echoes of the past and whispers of hope. The attic quieted as twilight deepened over the small town, the fading light casting a gentle, amber glow through the fractured window. Maya, seated peacefully among relics of her past, cradled the crystal-clear frame holding the old, unaged letter, her own voice from an uncertain future. Her eyes, softened yet shimmering with a steady newfound clarity, reflected a luminous calm, a peace she had fought so hard to find. The room was bathed in a tableau of warm wastecopper, deep amber, and muted gold shadows softened into a harmonious lullaby of acceptance. The tarnished pocket watch, once a symbol of the relentless march of time, now rested quietly on her lap, its faded face radiant in the gentle glow. It had become a silent testament to the journey, an emblem of the fierce truth she had learned to love, to trust. Outside, the world was cloaked in the hush of night, stars beginning to wink through the broken glass, echoing her journey from doubt to faith. The ashes from the fireplace, long cold and silent, now seemed to pulse slowly like the last embers of a fire she rekindled in her soul, a quiet reminder that even the darkest nights hold the promise of dawn. Her fingertips brushed over the glass, feeling the cool surface, tender and reverent. Her lips curved into a gentle smile, an unspoken vow to cherish this moment, this truth that had woven her past and present into an unbreakable chain. Her breath slowed, a deliberate exhale of surrender and gratitude, her shoulders relaxed into the comfort of unshakable certainty. The relics of her ancestral line, faded photographs, heirlooms, symbols of love and resilience, stood as silent witness, their secrets now a part of her story. She reached toward the heirloom necklace, gently tracing its carvings, feeling the faint pulse of history woven into its intricate design. In this sacred space of transition where shadows receded and light persisted, Maya's soul unfurled in a renewed embrace. The attic, once a chamber of fears and lost hopes, now shimmered with a divine serenity and homage to the truths she had uncovered, accepted, and loved. She rose slowly, her figure silhouetted against the moonlit window, her movement poised with gentle strength. With a last glance at the frame, she reached out and softly closed the last ancient box, sealing her journey with quiet grace. As she moved toward the stairway, the camera lingered on her face, a luminous reflection of peace, a testament to the courage of truth's embrace. In that silent moment, the attic held its breath, shimmering in the soft darkness, an eternal symbol of reconciliation between shadows and light, past and present. The last whispers of night faded into dawn, as Maya's figure faded into the gentle embrace of a new day, her spirit finally released from the chains of doubt, standing at the cusp of infinite possibilities, cradling the luminous wisdom of her journey in her heart. How would you react to a letter from your future self? Share your thoughts below.